Two titans of bodybuilding, Mike Mentzer and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The 1980 Mr. Olympia in Sydney was the stage. Tensions were high. Arnold, after a 5-year retirement, made a surprise comeback while Mentzer was at his peak. An alleged backstage altercation between the two. Words were exchanged. Arnold, known for his magnetic charisma, also had a reputation for playing mind games and bullying other contestants.
I remember Arnold said something about Mike's stomach. Arnold said, "Hey, you have a fat stomach anyhow." And Mike's like this. I'm like, oh my God. Mike carried that bitterness with him. If Mike would have just said, "Arnold, congratulations, good job," next year would have been his. He got upset and carried this bitterness. When you carry bitterness, it's bad.
To the astonishment of many, Arnold clinched the title, with Mentzer securing 5th place. Accusations of politics and favoritism emerged. Two legends, one heated controversy, a rivalry that left an indelible mark on bodybuilding history.
Welcome back, family. LanceScurv here. This is going to be not about bodybuilding, but about something else that came from a story that I witnessed in lifetime when I was 17 years old. If you didn't know, I used to be a competitive bodybuilder as a teenager, and it was a big part of my life. And I had a chance to meet the gentleman that I'm speaking about, and he had a tragic ending. But it's not just about him. It's a lesson in his story, and afterward, I'm gonna go deeper into what he went through. I'm speaking about Mike Mentzer, and those who know bodybuilding from back in the day, they know who he is. Anyway, the story begins with promise, momentum, and certainty. In 1980, one man stood on the edge of greatness, widely believed to be the next dominant champion of his sport. He had the physique, the discipline, the intellect, and the confidence of someone whose moment had finally arrived. For months, the outcome seemed almost decided before the event even began. The competition was held at the Sydney Opera House, a venue packed with fans expecting to witness a clean changing of the guard. The reigning champion was aging and injured. The younger contenders were sharper, leaner, and hungrier. Everything pointed toward a fair fight and a clear winner. Then, just days before the event, everything changed. A legendary former champion announced a sudden comeback after years of retirement. The timing shocked everyone. The atmosphere shifted overnight from excitement to suspicion. What should have been a celebration of competition became a tense and political moment. Backstage, the pressure exploded. Meetings meant to clarify rules turned hostile. Power dynamics were obvious. Influence mattered more than fairness. When a respected competitor questioned the tone and direction of the discussion, he was publicly belittled. That moment lit a fuse. The man who was expected to win finally spoke up, not to promote himself, but to defend basic respect. The response he received was cutting, personal, and humiliating. A comment aimed at his body, his past loss, and his worth as a competitor landed like a punch to the chest. The room went silent. Something broke inside of him in that moment. When competition day arrived, the returning legend appeared visibly off his peak. Other competitors were sharper, more conditioned, and more deserving by traditional standards. Yet something else was at play. Familiar faces filled the judging panel. Charisma and legacy carried weight that muscle and preparation could not overcome. When the final decision was announced, the crowd erupted, not in celebration, but in disbelief. Booing echoed through the opera house. Competitors walked off the stage in protest. The expected winner was buried deep in the rankings, far from the podium. What many believed should have been his crowning moment became a public rejection. That night, he made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He walked away from competition entirely. The sport he had devoted his body and mind to no longer felt pure. The humiliation wasn't just about losing. It was about how it happened and who benefited. At first, the anger felt justified. Anyone in his position would have felt wronged. He had done everything right. He had followed the rules. He had earned his place. The injustice was real, and pretending otherwise would have been dishonest. But the anger didn't fade with time. It hardened. The event became the center of every conversation, every explanation, every reflection on his career. Instead of becoming one chapter in a long life, it became the defining moment. While others moved on into business, media, or new stages of life, he stayed mentally locked in that night. His training philosophy, once revolutionary and respected, became inseparable from his resentment toward the system he believed betrayed him. As years passed, loss compounded loss. Professional platforms disappeared. Personal relationships collapsed. Family tragedy struck. The bitterness that once had a clear target now spread inward. Coping mechanisms replaced discipline. Drugs and heavy smoking took the place of structure and balance. Those who knew him later saw a man haunted by what should have been and consumed by what went wrong. His brilliance remained, but it was buried beneath anger and disappointment. He wasn't destroyed by a single event. He was destroyed by refusing to release it. His death was officially attributed to heart complications, but those who understood the full story knew the deeper cause. Years of stress, resentment, substance abuse, and emotional isolation had taken their toll. The body finally collapsed under the weight the mind had been carrying for decades. This is not just a story about a controversial competition or a corrupted decision. It is a warning. What began as a legitimate injustice slowly transformed into lifelong bitterness, and that bitterness proved far more lethal than the original wrong. This is where the real lesson begins. Not about sports, titles, or fairness, but about what happens when anger becomes identity. When a single night is allowed to define an entire existence. When being right matters more than being free. From here, the conversation must move beyond the event itself and into the larger truth. How bitterness, when left unresolved, doesn't stay emotional. It becomes physical. It becomes behavioral. And eventually, it becomes fatal. This is why this story matters. Not for what happened on that stage, but for what happened afterward. And why understanding bitterness may be one of the most important acts of self-preservation anyone can make. Bitterness doesn't show up all at once. It starts quietly, usually after a moment when you feel deeply wronged. Someone disrespects you. Something is taken from you. An outcome feels unfair. At first, the anger feels justified, even healthy. You tell yourself you have every right to feel the way you do. The problem is that bitterness doesn't stay in the moment where it was born. It lingers. It settles in. And over time, it begins to shape how you see the world, how you treat people, and how you treat yourself. What started as a reaction slowly becomes a way of living. Many people believe bitterness is a sign of strength. They think letting go means losing, forgiving means weakness, and moving on means pretending the harm never happened. In reality, bitterness is not power. It is a slow drain on your energy, your health, and your peace of mind. There are countless stories of talented, intelligent, and driven people who lost far more to bitterness than they ever lost to the original injustice. Their skills didn't disappear, their intelligence didn't fade, but their ability to move forward did. This discussion is not about denying pain or pretending injustice doesn't matter. It's about understanding what happens when unresolved anger becomes a permanent resident in your mind, and why dealing with bitterness is not about letting others off the hook, but about saving your own life. Bitterness works like a mental infection. It attaches itself to a single moment and then spreads outward. At first, you replay the event in your mind, trying to make sense of it. Then you replay it to justify your anger. Eventually, you replay it because you don't know how to stop. What makes bitterness so dangerous is that it feels logical. You can list every reason you were wronged. You can explain why your reaction makes sense. You can even convince others that you were treated unfairly. And often, you are absolutely correct. But being correct does not protect you from the damage that bitterness causes. Over time, bitterness begins to rewrite your identity. You stop being someone who experienced a bad situation and start becoming someone defined by it. Conversations drift back to the same topic. Old wounds become part of your personality. You measure new experiences through old pain. This is where bitterness becomes physical. Chronic anger keeps your body in a constant state of stress. Your nervous system never fully relaxes. Your sleep suffers. Your blood pressure rises. Your immune system weakens. The body was never designed to carry long-term emotional warfare. People often cope by numbing themselves. Smoking increases. Drinking becomes more frequent. Stimulants feel necessary just to function. These habits aren't the root problem, but they pour fuel on the fire. What started as emotional pain now has physical consequences. Bitterness also isolates. When every conversation circles back to resentment, people slowly pull away. Not because they don't care, but because they can't help someone who refuses to release the pain. The bitter person feels abandoned, which only deepens the resentment. The cruel irony is that bitterness convinces you it's protecting you. It tells you that staying angry keeps you alert, prepared, and strong. In reality, it keeps you stuck in the past while life moves on without you. Some people experience major losses close together: a career setback, a broken relationship, the death of a loved one, or the collapse of something they built with pride. When bitterness is already present, these moments don't just hurt, they overwhelm. The emotional system collapses under the weight. This is when self-destruction often begins. Discipline fades, standards drop. The very habits that once created success disappear. The person may still have knowledge, talent, and experience, but they no longer have clarity or balance. Bitterness doesn't erase accomplishments, but it makes them feel meaningless. Achievements become reminders of what was lost instead of proof of what's possible. Even past success can feel painful when it highlights how far someone believes they've fallen. Eventually, bitterness becomes more important than healing. Being right feels more valuable than being healthy. Holding the grudge feels safer than facing the unknown future without it. At that point, the bitterness has won. The most frightening thing about bitterness is that it doesn't care how smart you are. Intelligence doesn't protect you. Strength doesn't protect you. Even being morally right doesn't protect you. If bitterness is left unchecked, it consumes everyone the same way. Letting go does not mean pretending the harm never happened. It means refusing to let that harm control the rest of your life. It means processing the pain, learning from it, and choosing not to relive it every day. Some people wait for an apology that never comes. Others wait for justice that arrives too late. In the meantime, years pass, health declines, relationships fade, life moves forward while they stay emotionally frozen in one moment. Dealing with bitterness is not about forgiveness for others. It's about freedom for yourself. It's about choosing peace over punishment, growth over stagnation, and life over endless emotional warfare. If you're holding on to something right now that keeps resurfacing in your thoughts, affects your health, or steals your joy, take it seriously. Bitterness is not harmless. Left untreated, it doesn't just ruin moods, it ruins lives and takes lives just as fast. I know this to be true. I saw Mike Mensa, the bodybuilder we're speaking about, and the exact event was the 1980 Mr. Olympia, where Arnold Schwarzenegger came back from a 5-year retirement to win the show that really was politically rigged. And Mike Mensa was really the heir apparent to win that title, not guaranteed, but he should have won that night. And he seemed to me to be kind of high-strung anyway. When I rode the elevator with him, he was talking to a friend, and it was the Night of the Champions bodybuilding competition in 1979. He didn't go in that one, but he was there because he had to scope out the competition that next year and the subsequent years would be there for him. So he was in a rush to go somewhere. He went there, he met with different people, talked with different people, played the political game to a point, showed his face as an up-and-coming star, which really he was already there after winning Mr. Universe. But I remember him saying in an uptight way, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. I just gotta get out of here. He was uptight. And this thing didn't even happen until the next year. But he had that kind of, from what I can see, maybe I'm wrong, he had that anal retentive type personality. And he was brilliant. He was very intelligent, very precise. He was the author of so many groundbreaking training methods in bodybuilding that revolutionized it for many people. But I've known people like him, and these types of people, when something happens that didn't go their way and they were really wrongly done, they don't let go of it. They don't let go. I'm watching people that I know for many years age prematurely because of something that happened many decades ago. There could be relationships and breakups and different things, and it's almost every time you talk to them, they go back to that one period of their life. And I say, man, don't they see? And so for me, I've been done wrong lots of times. and been very furious about it too, because it was blatant. But one thing I won't do, I will not allow a situation that involves other people who did me wrong to win over my life and have me just speaking about this all the time. Forgiving, yes, I can do that because you release it to the universe. But forgetting, no. And they'll never get another shot at my resources, my life, my energy, my essence. They can't have it because it's a bad gamble. So this is what keeps me young, is to release. You'll never forget. You shouldn't. You don't want to repeat it again, but you learn from it and you move on. And that's one thing I've become very strong at doing. At one time, I kind of held on to things when I was younger, but I learned that lesson through seeing how it did other people, older people who had things that happened to them decades earlier and they're still talking about it. Somebody who did them wrong, who's dead and gone for many years, many decades, and they're still angry about it. That clogs up your emotional filters. That clogs up the joy that you can receive. That's a cloud between you and the sun that's shining on you. The sun representing your happiness and your joy. And you keep this cloud up there. And after a while, nobody wants to hear it. You know what I mean? If you go through something or somebody's going through something, you try to drop a little knowledge on them and don't let that thing mess up their life and their outlook. And there's so many of us out here that really need healing. I mean, who am I to say, oh, so many of us need healing? Yeah, because I still need healing for certain things. And it takes time. And different things take different sets of time to heal. And one person's time for healing might be quite shorter than the next person. So even when you offer advice and say, oh, well, you know, it's been 2 years, you need to hurry up and heal. I got over my thing in 6 months. You're two different people. Now, if you're holding on to bitterness now, then we need to talk about that. But as far as the healing is concerned, we don't know how deeply the wounds have cut. You see what I mean? One person getting stabbed is different from somebody else getting stabbed. Somebody may have a deeper wound. Somebody may not have the ability to heal quickly. There's so many different factors in our life that make us to be the individuals that we are. No two people are the same. So we need to seek healing. Even when you don't think you're bitter about anything, just try to cleanse and meditate and think about things, yes, but think about them in a manner where you release them. What can I throw out from this junky emotional house that I'm in? And I'm not calling you junky. I'm just using that as an analogy. When you have a house, say for example, you have a pack rat that you know, and everything they buy, they keep. Now stuff is piled up. I know people who are pack rats that in their house, their big house, the only space they have to walk is a narrow path because they have boxes piled up and things. And you know what? They know where everything is located. They know where everything is located. Oh, I have a strainer. Just you see that box over there? Go up 3 boxes and the 2 boxes behind that, just lift it up and it's on the top. And lo and behold, it's there. Yeah. I've known pack rats that their dining room table was piled up with newspapers and junk. Boxes all over the place the same way I described. I mean, even in the china closet, stuff was junked up. And it had been maybe like 3 or 4 years that I had visited this family. And wouldn't you believe that it was the same stuff on the dining room table that wasn't ever moved? They negotiated around that. Now, why am I speaking about the physical junk? Because we hold on to things that we don't let go and that we should let go. There's certain things and memories and pleasant things. Yeah, I mean, even today, I was playing some music and it just hit me. And even though this competition that I was speaking about with the Mr. Olympia was in 1980, some of these songs that I was playing was from 1980. And it was a very happy time in my life. And I remember, I forgot her name. But the song, it was a very happy song. Baby, your love is a lifesaver, is a lifesaver. Man, and that reminded me of my old friend Junior, who had the gym in the neighborhood. We would go down and drive down to Rockaway Beach in his van. And some of the other fellows would come too, but I was always available. He was like, come on, you want to go? On the spur of the moment. And we'd go. And we took some pictures down there, and I don't know where I can find them. But me and him were posing, and there was a young lady who held the camera and took some pictures, and that was me at 17 years old. I wasn't as good as I eventually got, but I was like, man, I'm pretty impressive. But, you know, those memories. Now, God rest his soul, he passed away, I think, in 2006. And I think he was 66 years old at the time. But back in 1980, he was much younger, and I was much younger. And phenomenal memories. Why don't we hold on to the good memories? Why don't we hold on to the good things? And that's what I'm all about. That's what keeps my brain working. That's what keeps me with enthusiasm when I wake up in the morning time. Not only just the past, but the joy of the past when I play my old songs, because I call it music therapy. And I will, when I clean the house or clean up my studio or do certain things, whatever, I'll play some music and get deep in thought and go back to that happy time and reflect on it and appreciate it and thank the Creator for having it. But that's a promise for the future. So when I wake up every day, I say to myself, what wonderful memory am I going to create that I'll remember for years to come? And so this is why I can spend so much time in focus, meditation, solitude, artwork, writing, creating these videos, because it's a whole lot more, you know, with the graphics and the thought and how you're going to plan it out. And then you have to talk. Then you have to talk and make sense, right? So I have to go within myself. And so I stir the emotional pot by playing music that brings back good, warm memories. And there's so many that I have to share. And I'm so appreciative of you being here to listen to these words, to even appreciate something that means so much to me, and even to listen to my perspectives. And I don't think I know everything, but I know a little something after 62 years on this earth. And it's not because of the time spent, but it's the depth of experience, rapid fire, back to back. I tell you, and I tell many people this, and I said this to a lady in Orlando, Florida, that was 88 years old at the time, and she's still with us and still alive. She's got to be like 98 years old. I said, listen, I think I've had just as much, or if not more, intense experiences than you had in your life. And I know her very well. And she said, I listen to the stuff you talk about, and I think so too. I didn't live as crazy a life that you did. And again, my life wasn't crazy, but I've had crazy examples around me, and I learned from different people. I learned from my own experiences, but I also learned from other people's experiences, which has helped me to accelerate my knowledge base of wisdom, my little bit of wisdom. And you're always welcome to listen. You're always welcome to come through. Just let me know what you want me to talk about, and I'll go there, because I love human nature. I love trying to figure out what makes us tick as human beings, what makes us operate the way that we do. And even still, if I understand something, right, and I'll try to help you to understand it, just the same way many people have tried to help me to understand things, because we as people, lots of times we don't see the overall picture of what makes a person act the way they do. So I try to figure it out. People play video games and play games on their phone, and I don't consider anybody's life a game, but I try to figure out what makes a person tick, and that's my game, right? That's what I like to do, to have better understanding and to even get along with this person, because people these days are going through so much, and you don't know what stress people are holding in. And the pressure now in this day and age is to look good and to look happy and to show the world on social media. We take the highlight moments, but nobody takes the photos of bad moments or recording of bad moments. So yeah, if somebody else is fighting, they do that, right? But their own stuff, they're not going to put their stuff out there like that. So it's pressure for most people because everything looks perfect in the world, right? And that's not realistic. I mean, I wish it could be. I wish we could always be happy 24/7. I mean, there are times when I wake up enthusiastic, and every now and then there's times I say, oh, I want to stay in the bed another 2 hours. I'm not ready for the day. I want to lay down some more. or I have so much that I have to do for the week that I scheduled myself. And I said, why did I plan so many things? Today, I just want to stay in. I just want to walk around aimlessly and just sit on the couch and just stare off into space. We all have those days. And we have to understand that we're human. We're not always going to be 100%. But my saying that I always use, and my dear sister likes this saying that I always say, right? And I said this in training. Some days you go to the gym and you have 100% of your energy. The next day you go to the gym, you only have 60%. I mean, it could be 30, it could be 80, but this particular day you have 60% of what you had the day before. What are you going to do? But the way I looked at it back in those days, which helped me to not feel as though that particular day of training was a failure because it was only 60% of the day before, is that I would say, I'm going to use 100% of the 60% that I have. You're still moving forward. Things don't happen right away like you wanted. It's not going to be evenly spaced. Sometimes you have funds to finance the things you want to do, and then you won't even have the enthusiasm. Sometimes you have the enthusiasm and you don't have the money. You see what I mean? In my studio, there's so many wires and connectors and adapters and gadgets and recorders. And then when it gets a little dusty, it's impossible. And I let it go on too long just being that way. And this morning when I woke up, I said, I'm going in here and I'm going to face everything piece by piece. Now I'd say I'm about 85% done. But I didn't do anything earlier today and I wanted to go out on the balcony, but I said, you know what? Let me get this done because it will never get done unless I do it now because I have the energy and I have the focus. But tomorrow I will add up and add some more things in, more so tomorrow than I did today. But I had to do something. I'm very dedicated to keeping up a pace with anything I commit to doing. And so I said, okay, after I get to a certain point, have a nice bath, have a nice meal, I'm going to sit down and we're going to discuss something. So I'm giving 100% of what I have. So it's not about comparing to yesterday, right? You use 100% of what you have, even if it's only 5%, because you're still moving forward. But the only way to move forward in this life is not to carry the baggage of bitterness. And you're moving forward, or you think you're moving forward, but you're looking back in a bad way. If you look back on pleasant memories. Or things that you're trying to figure out that you didn't have the answer for. I had a bad breakup in the relationship many, many decades ago, and the answer came back to me recently. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just happened. I said, oh, now I understand what that was all about. You see? And other times I think back on things I'm trying to figure out. Like I remember a deep thought that hit me, and this has nothing to do with bitterness, but since I'm in front of the mic, I said, let me just talk a little more. A deep thought hit me. It was Thanksgiving in, what was the year? It had to be 1980. No, it wasn't 86. It had to be 87, possibly 88, but I think it was 87. And I was sitting around the table. And Thanksgiving for us wasn't about, yes, the Pilgrims in America and no, it was a family thing, right? And people would come through. It wasn't where, be here at dinner at a certain time. No, we'd make the food, we sit around and eat, and whoever wanted to come and get some food, so be it. And it was my father, it was my mother, it was my old girlfriend, Donna. It was my father's work helper, Lewis, right? And Lewis was a trip. I'm going to tell you all about him in subsequent episodes. He was a funny guy. He's a funny guy without even trying to be funny. But anyway, I was sitting there and there was a song playing. I forgot. Well, I know the name. I Like You. That was the name of the song. I like you a lot. Yes, I like you. That's the way it sounded, right? Matter of fact, after this, I'm going to play it and meditate on that. And it wasn't a pleasant thought. It was just a thought. It wasn't super negative, but it was something that was whispered to not really my subconscious mind, but my conscious mind. And it was a weird thought. And something told me, they said, you're going to remember this moment because all that are here will be gone. And you'll still be here. Enjoy them. And would you believe it? It's true. Now, I don't know if the age Lewis was. There's no way, because he'd be celebrated like being like 120 years old or something. You know what I mean? But I know he's not with us in my soul. And I know my mother transitioned, my father transitioned. I know Donna transitioned in, 2017, I found out. And I'm like, it was just so weird. And when I look at people and I think about them and their life journey and how we cross paths and how some stay, some go, it's like a bus line. You have a downtown bus depot where all the buses go. And for a while, even though you know all the buses are going to a different part of the city, the first couple of blocks, they all have the same route before they split up and go to their subsequent areas that are unique, for the destination. And that's the way life is. And it's not like we all start out in the same place, but we can have overlapping routes. And there's reasons for those overlapping routes. It's up to you to figure it out. Sometimes we cling and we say, oh man, I want this person in my life forever. But it's not for them to be there forever. It's for them to, when I say chisel away, it helps to form you to make you the person you are, because we take parts of each other from that person with ourselves and they influence us. So when I say chisel away, it's like you're sculpturing and you're chiseling away the marble to make your beautiful form, a beautiful statue. Well, we should be becoming those beautiful statues. But again, back to bitterness, that stops it. Even if your physical dimensions, change, we're not always going to be 17 and 18 years old, 20 years old. We get older, our bodies change. So when I say beautiful form, the whole total package of who you are. Because I remember standing dozens and dozens and dozens of times on bodybuilding stages all across the East Coast, up and down, and getting people to have standing ovations. And sometimes they don't even pay any mind because you're not developed yet. When I started out, I wasn't as good as I was years later. But even that stick-it-to-itiveness, yes, that's my favorite word, that paid off. And I learned and I persevered. And I didn't let the losses cause me to be bitter to give up. And things that I go through to this very day, I don't allow those things, because you see, even if you take a loss financially, you take a loss of a YouTube channel, you take a loss of friends who believe lies that were told to them, you still have the advantages of learning the lessons from those times. So even though you may not have the body of work or what you worked so hard to build, or the camaraderie around you that you used to have and now it's gone, it's still in you. There are many people that I know that I've been trying to reach out to that over time you lose numbers, you lose contact. And there's one individual that I knew in my bodybuilding days coming up that I can say he revealed to me that he had cancer. And it's very hard to reach him. And I'm a little uptight that he might not be with us. Hopefully, if he is, we can regain contact. But those moments, the fun, the connectedness with him and other mutual friends, I relive that all the time. That's the healthy way to do it. That's when memories aid you and they fuel you to look for and enjoy the present time. So there's some things that I'll be doing in the next few days. I have a dear friend that's coming to Ghana from the States, and she'll be here for a few weeks. And there are functions that she's going to, and I'm invited to them. So I'm going to create memories. I'm going to share them. Of course, my camera will be with me, and they'll be unique for this present time, because the overlap and the parallel bus routes that we are to each other, we have to enhance it. Because like I tell a lot of my close people, I let them know, listen, either I'm going to hear about you or you're going to hear about me. Transitioning. But for the time that we have here together, let's make it rock. Let's create memories. See, I'm not a spectator in life, and I never have been. I'm always looking to enhance. I'm like the hamburger helper of precious time. You know, I try to enhance it. I try to enhance the flavor, not overdoing it, but getting where I fit in with my energy. I never like the energy to lag. I want you to have a good time. I want you to laugh. I want you to remember the sweet times. And there's so many people I can tell you about that are not here with us right now, but they affected me, and I'm going to share that with you. It's just like when I played the interview or discussion. It really wasn't an interview with my dear friend Kelly Everts, the one who was a stripper back in the 70s and 80s, and people thought she was crazy because she said she was stripping for God, and I just never understood that part. And I told her, but what a deep woman she was. And there are other things that other people felt was the Twilight Zone with her, right? But I extracted the good, and you saw the camaraderie that we had in our conversation, and it had been decades since we spoke. We reconnected, and we agreed to do that conversation, and we had planned on doing another one, but unfortunately, she transitioned. And really, who am I to say unfortunately? Because that's the order of life. And I do believe if we have a just creator like many feel, our energies will cross paths again, especially when we were good to each other, especially when we have a piece of our heart that belongs to this person and many other people. And I don't mean a romantic relationship or something sexual, but just that connection. There are people that I remember from many years ago. Earlier today, and this guy probably never got a modicum of acknowledgement or fame, but my father collected rent for his cousin, which is my cousin, right? But she was much older. And she had a brownstone. And I believe it was on 136th Street, 137, 136th Street in Manhattan. And she was too old to go. I'm not going to say she's too old. That's kind of like age discrimination, but it was. She didn't want to be bothered. She was very short, very, she didn't have any presence or whatever, commanding, and they weren't bad tenants that were there. So it was real comical. His name was James Jones, Mr. Jones. And he had a funny voice. He had a bald head. He had a pot belly. I don't think he had one tooth in his head. And he loved to talk. And he was a funny guy. You laughed with him and you couldn't help but laugh at him. And he had a girlfriend. It wasn't his wife, but it was his wife. It was like common law. They were together, and they were together for many years. And do you think she had any teeth in her mouth? I mean, I'm not knocking anybody, right? But I'm just painting the comical. I'm a young kid. How old was I about? I had to be 9, 10, 11 years old, right around in there. And I loved it when he had to go over there and collect rent because I always wanted to go with him. And we'd go, and Mr. Jones was always, pleasant with me. He was a man from the South, and I believe he was part of the mass migration from the South to the North. And he held some job that he retired from. And it wasn't some high-paying job. And this little apartment that they had on that one floor was really small, and they were kind of like pack rats. And we would sit in a room that they had this bed and this big TV. Even though they had another part of the apartment, everything circulated around that bedroom with the TV. And I remember him saying, And he had a funny voice. What did he call me? He used to call me something. I'll come back and tell that part of the story. But it was like he admired me because I was young and I had my future ahead of me. And there were a lot of black men and black women back in that day that had a connectedness with the youth and would give them whatever they can give them as far as wisdom, whether it stuck or not. Because back in those days, you had a lot of heroin in New York City. And so when you saw somebody who looked to be promising, you wanted to encourage them, right? So they would always, he said, yeah, and this is how he talked too. Yeah, and he looked like Buddha. He looked just like Buddha, bald with the gut. That's what I meant to say, right? Well, if you get a TV, you got to get the Sony. The Sony is the best TV that you can get out there. Hey, and his girlfriend, we to this day, and my father and mother are not here, but they transitioned. But for the whole time that we were always around them, we don't know whether he was calling his girlfriend Peggy or Piggy. And we would look at each other, yeah, Peggy, yeah, Piggy. Now, I'm not going to say she was the slimmest person in the world, and she wasn't, and I'm not saying this as a put down, she just wasn't educated, and she was real slow. And all we heard from her, hey, yeah, hey, hi, yeah. What I'm saying is that these were colorful characters, but they were the sweetest people that would give you the shirt off their back. And he knew I loved boxing. And so he called himself, he was never a boxer. And I don't even know how I got onto this. I just said, let me just talk a little bit, entertain y'all. He never did boxing in his life, had this big pot belly. And he's a young man, let me tell you, when you're fighting now, you're gonna have to learn how to dodge. And he would rock back and forth and laugh. And you see no teeth in his mouth and just tongue. Right, Peggy? You gotta learn how to dodge. Just the beauty of people. I mean, they weren't world, they didn't have any world status. They didn't have any big money. They were poor people living their life, and they had an energy that was positive, as opposed to people who, they do have status in this world, yet they're arrogant, they're just entitled, and I don't care who it is. If you're like that, I don't want to be around you, right? And there's going to be a famous person at this function this week, and I'm not even interested in, I'm not really into the whole boule. That's all I'll say. Okay? It's somebody you know too. It's a big name. And I'm not interested, but I'll go. I was requested to go, so I'll go. But, the energy of people, understand that will average out with you. Understand that people who are bitter oftentimes will try to get you to drum up something in your life that you can be bitter about. Usually people who like to hold on to bitterness do not want a solution. I've learned that also. They want to stay in that space. They do not want to change. And with you got to avoid that, because it'll taint you. It'll taint your energy. And we need every bit of energy in this world, the way this world is, that we can muster. And I'm talking about positive energy. Positive energy is under attack. Social media is spreading the hate, the frustrations, the narcissism, the people wanting to see bad things happen to other people. What about something uplifting? What about something empowering? It's like we're all sinking in quicksand in this negative world. And I mentioned his name again, I did last night. People like Bill Gates who are trying to do things to hurt people, to stifle their growth and feed GMO foods and control people with these substances. I don't want to say what it is, but we know what it is. We know the reason why we had to wear the mask, or what they told us. So our minds are under attack. It's harder to be happy these days. Not for me, because I protect my energy. I mean, I'm vicious with it. If you come with some negativity, I'm hanging up, I'll walk away from you. Or if I know that's what you are toward me, you'll never see me and I'm walking past you, I have no words to say. My sanity must be preserved because the Creator knows I have been through enough trials and tribulations in this lifetime, but He has taught me how to deal with it and use it as a plus to keep me standing in this day and age. Because aside from, there are people I know that are doing well, that I grew up with, but there's too many, and may I say even slightly more than, the ones who are doing good, that have fallen off. Even right now as we speak, a dear friend of mine is locked up on foolishness, and he should know better. And it hurts me. Because when you see somebody close to you going through something, especially something that's unnecessary, that they have the intelligence to avoid those situations, but you can't control your emotions and you let it get the best of you every time. And this is how they rule over us globally. More so in America and places like the UK, where there's a tighter packed, up close and personal population, big cities and people living close up on each other. It's not meant to be that way. We need to be spread out. We need to be in nature. We need to be away from the concrete jungle and all of these Wi-Fi signals and noise and spirits and disgruntled people that are not healed. You don't know what you're looking at when you see somebody in the street. You can see somebody in the street now and they look normal, and that's the same person that 5 minutes later goes and shoots up the whole shopping mall. And you look in the newspaper, on the news or something on your phone, you say, wait a second, this guy just walked past me in the street. Or somebody go home and snuff their whole family. But they had a good paying job. They had a beautiful home. They had several luxury vehicles. And we can't rate happiness on material things, but that's the first thing most people do. Well, they had a good life. They had this and had that. Those are the things that just don't bring happiness. It's nice, but the essence of happiness and not being bitter or not being weighed down, keeping your mental health right. Because like it was told to me earlier today from my dear sister Customato, we see people way out in Africa, right? Not just the ones in the city, but those who are way out, who may have a simple structure they live in, that they built, and they don't have much as far as a big car or a big mansion or the latest designer bags and clothes. They don't have any makeup. They don't care about that stuff. And the way she broke it down, I didn't say these things, I'm just sharing it with you. Telling me how we have this paper money that we fight so hard for. Now it's digital and they can control it even more. You can steal cash, you can get cash and work some deals and pay somebody to cut your yard, or somebody who's not a mechanic just to change your brakes, and nobody knows about that. But now everything is going to be known. And what value is there behind it? Nothing. It's not even backed by gold. But she said, look out, way out in the countries in Africa, not where it's built up and modern, but those people, they have the sun. Some of them, and like the example she showed me of this young lady who had a solar panel with a wire on it to charge her phone, right? But I'm assuming they just didn't have electricity in their small structure. And they were cool with that because when it got dark, they went to bed. When the sun came out, they woke up and did what they had to do. And they have the land. And they don't have GMO foods. And they have fresh air. And they have each other. And they have to help each other because what job are they going to? The job they're going to is the job of unity. Let's all get together. You dig up the potatoes, you go get the chicken, you do this, you prepare that, and whoever needs to have the structure repaired, they're people who, unity. And the thought that hit me is that the more we're pulled away from each other, is the more we have to depend on the enemy's money. Because when you have each other, that's more valuable than any bit of cheap cash, where they can manipulate the value. Isn't that something? I just heard this. He was a former pastor, and I don't know how authentic his statistics were, but he was basically saying that the median price of a home in America is $249,000. And many who are in the bigger cities will say, hey, that's kind of low, because you know, right, it's the average, because you know, way out in the rural areas, way out in the country, houses are much cheaper, and those factor in also. So if you live in the bigger city, you know it's much more than that. But what he said was that to afford that home, you had to make at least $114,000 a year. Now, if it's you and your wife or family, whatever, the combined. And you had to have 25% down. Who has that kind of money? And even when it passes through your fingers, how do you accumulate it with things going up? So he was basically saying that only a small percentage of Americans can afford to buy a home, when many decades ago, those numbers were flipped, where 80% had the potential to purchase a home. So now you're being squeezed out that way. So who's really a SHIT whole country, like Trump said? Africa, Haiti, or Africa, that's a SHIT whole country. Really? Do you see the teeth on some of these people that live out what people call the wild, but it's not wild? The minerals in the food, the sun, the exercise, the beautiful physiques they have, the happiness that they spend with each other. The kids are being taught and they're running around playing and happy. They don't have any PlayStation. They don't have any tablet or smartphone. Some do, maybe the parents do, maybe the mother does. But everybody's not running around with that. They depend on each other. You know how many times I go through on the van deep into the country and see the kids playing, and they're kicking around maybe a soccer ball that's half deflated, and they're still having fun, giggling and laughing. They don't even know what kind of game they're playing. They're just trying to kick it over their shoulder. Having deep belly laughs. They're not connected to this system that has us freaking out and putting pressure on our mental health. And again, not to just go back to the gym, but one sign that, and I used to train people, and one guy asked me, he said, well, listen, if you're in a certain routine and the day comes up to train a body part that was previously trained, but that body part is still sore and wrecked, what do? I said, you don't train that day. You allow it to recuperate. But the way we think of things now, we just keep going and going and going. Some people say, work out the soreness. No, recuperate. Recuperate. And this is not about training, but I'm going to spin it around before I go. You all know, many of you, I used to work in corrections. And you have facilities where they do not have weights. The guys have to exercise in an improvised way. They'll use towels and pull on the towels at certain movements together. And they will get extremely developed. And a lot of guys will say, listen, I got a gym membership. I go 6 days a week, 5 days a week. I don't look like some of these guys. Well, you know what the factor is that you're out here in the outside world, you're working, you got family to deal with, you got to drop your kids off to school, take them to the doctor's appointment, and you got to do things, and you got to take your car to the mechanic and your supermarket to go. All they do, exercise, some do reading, educate themselves, but they rest. They rest. And it's in that phase of recuperation that they get the benefits of that workout. The workout is the smallest part of the cycle. So compare this on an overall health level. We don't get enough rest. We don't get enough rest. We were not made to be up all night working. We were not made to process all of the information that comes to us through a smartphone or the computer. It's too much. It's burning us out. We're becoming zombified. See? We can only process but so much and retain it. But we keep getting bombarded with this stimulation. We need more rest. We need more peace and quiet. We need more nature. Why is it that people, when they feel stressed and they live in the city, they want to go on vacation out in nature? They want to go to the tropics and tropical places near the equator. I live on the equator. 0 latitude and 0 longitude. That means something to me. It's a certain vibration in this land. There's a reason why they named it that or made that, marking. It's the center of the world. An added bonus and plus. But now, I feel so good. Not that I didn't feel good, but out of the rat race, reducing your bills, really, really slashing them, taking time to do the things. I'm a little fatigued right now, but I said I'm going to do this particular show. And I'm having fun doing it. I'm just being me. There's no scripted anything. Yes, I jotted down notes and I read from my notes, but it's all from the heart. And I can be completely in the moment. And once I get my tasks done for the day and it's time to retire, I look forward to my rest. And when I rest, I'm not thinking about anything else. Things cross my mind, of course, but it's not overwhelmed. You see? So it's a beautiful thing. It's a cycle. We have most of us living in an imbalanced cycle. We're not really enjoying life. And worse now when you're holding on to bitterness. That's going to physically affect you. But listen, I'm going to run right now and I'll end it on this. Try to get more sleep. Try to get more relaxation. Try to have mental breaks because you can rest your body and your mind is still in chaos. Try to find some time to even be bored. When you're bored, your mind resets. When you're bored, your mind resets in a very special way that you come back stronger. Would you drive your car home if you have a garage? Well, you wouldn't put it in the garage and leave it running, right? But just if you parked it outside somewhere, you don't let the car stay running, you cut it off. That would be terrible if you let your car run all night. That's not good for the longevity and life of that engine. You have to shut it down. And I find that since I'm in nature more, and I'm in nature in a big way, my mind is so much stronger with more clarity, and emotionally and mentally, I am just so even keel. And that's a whole other subject. But the bitterness, seek healing. You don't have to forget, but forgive the situation. You don't have to forgive the person. Forgive the situation so that it doesn't have a hold on you. And that way, with your emotional and mental filters unclogged, the joy that you felt as a child is the same joy that you feel every day as you get older on a chronological level, because you're still the same person. And we need to enjoy this time of our life more than ever before. But this world order will rob it from you. Don't let it do that. Anyway, much love to you all. I'm gonna process this and get this up before I sleep. It's a little work, probably another hour and a half of things to do. I don't mind. It's all out of love. I love vibing with you and giving of myself. And that's a joy that nobody can take away. Never. Because I'm built for this. Anyway, take care. Have a good night's rest. If it's time for you to rest, steal a nap if you can. But get that rest in that body, because life is wonderful. We got to keep it that way. Peace.